everyone, it's Maddie. Welcome back to my channel. And today's video I've been wanting to make for a while because it's more of a psychological type video, a video where like I can kind of like share, in my opinion, like the 10 emotions that you deal with as a type 1 diabetic, and when you manage the condition, or different emotions you'll go through at different stages, like when you're first diagnosed to after having diabetes for a while, or when you have a good day, when you have a bad day, and overall when you've come to learn and understand what this disease is about and how to manage it for your lifestyle, kind of how everything needs to go. So with that being said, I have a list of 10 things. These particular emotions and or feelings are not in any order, but I'm going to go through each one and kind of explain when I've gone through this, and I hope this kind of helps some of you guys, and I hope it helps people that don't have diabetes. Or if you are a diabetic and watch my channel, please share this with people that don't have diabetes, because then they can get a better idea of the importance of like dealing with like the emotional side of diabetes, because it's difficult. And if you're a type 1 diabetic, like we're more prone to anxiety and depression, only because living with a chronic condition is like a huge piggy on our back that we have to carry. I personally don't have like huge anxiety issues or depression issues, but there definitely can be a lot of like emotional fluctuations, and I'm not, scared to share that, and I'm not scared to talk about it. And if you have anxiety, if you have depression, or if you have other conditions dealing with like your emotions and diabetes, that it's okay to talk about that and share that. Like I said, I personally don't, but it can happen, and it's part of living with the condition, especially people that are more prone to different things. So the first feeling I have on here is shock. And this feeling comes mostly when you're first diagnosed. Like, I wouldn't say like for me it was like a huge shock, because like I had diabetes warning signs like 8 weeks before I was diagnosed, and then they just got worse and worse. And when I, like my own mom's telling me like that peeing that much is an indicator of diabetes, like I was pretty much like told the ER doctor, like when I walked in the emergency room, like I've been having all like what I think are diabetes signs, and I told the nurse all the symptoms I was going through, and she immediately grabbed a glucometer, and I just had a funny feeling that it was going to read something really out of whack, like high or whatever, but I didn't think it would be as high as it was. I thought it was going to be like 200, or high but not like dangerously high, and it was just kind of a shock to know like how close I was to death and stuff. But the shock is more of a thing when you're first diagnosed, although it probably could carry over for quite some time, but I would say mainly when you're first diagnosed with type 1 diabetes that you're going to feel this emotion. Number 2 is denial, and you can go in and out of this denial state for a long time. For me, my main stage of denial was after diagnosis, during the honeymoon stage, when I was only taking Lantus and only having to prick my finger a few times a day, and I was seeing blood sugars that were normal, even after eating all this food and no Humalog, and I'm just like, oh gee whiz, they misdiagnosed me, I don't have diabetes, and la la la. But then pretty soon, like after like only being on long-acting insulin for like a month, my blood sugar started going between 200, 250, 260, up almost to 300 before meals. And at that point, it's like, yep, I have diabetes. It's time to reintroduce my meal insulin again, seeing as though my pancreas can no longer keep up with any meals. And when you're going through this honeymoon stage, you're like in denial that, yeah, they misdiagnosed me. I have normal blood sugars, or I have pretty normal blood sugars. Like, why did my blood sugar just go high for some random reason, or what's going on here? But that's this thing that the honeymoon phase puts you through this state of denial, and that's one of the huge main reasons why I hated it, is because it's not like a slap in the face. Like, I'm one of these people that likes to be challenged, and if you're gonna throw a chronic disease on me, like I would rather just have it be full blown, let's deal with all of the nastiness of it, instead of putting me in this state of denial that like, yeah, you kind of got it right now, but it's gonna start getting worse slowly, and surely you're gonna progress and all this different stuff. And it's like, no, I would have just rather been thrown into the boat right away. But that's just part of the process of living with type 1 diabetes. Not all people go through a honeymoon, and not all people will go through a stage of denial, but I think it's a very common thing. And like me going through this stomach bug, like I had extreme insulin sensitivity for like 5 days, 6 days after, and I thought like I was honeymooning again, or I thought like, what the heck, did my pancreas wake up? Am I going through like something weird? Is my pancreas alive again? What's going on? But it was just something weird that my body responded to the stomach bug differently than a typical virus, like where you might run a little higher blood sugars. Like my body did the opposite thing and flipped and went low or ran lower, and in order to compensate for that, I had to cut back on basal insulin and bolus insulin. And it turns out when you're like I said, when your stomach's sick, like your liver has to do a lot of the work. So eventually your liver is going to start having less and less glycogen to release, and you're just going to need less insulin until you can get your body back in a rhythm of eating again and putting carbohydrate back in your body. You're going to go through that kind of lower insulin level, and you're going to like think that, you know, you don't have diabetes because you're having minimal insulin and having good blood sugars, and you might be able to get away with a little more or whatever, but your body's just craving energy, and in order to get that in there, you don't need as much insulin because you're missing so much. You got rid of a lot of it. So denial is one of those things you can go in and out of, but primarily that's one that you're going to experience at least within the first year of diagnosis, when you're like honeymooning and when you're still trying to figure out your ratios and all that stuff. That's one thing you're definitely going to experience. Number 3 is anger and bitterness. I kind of at the same time I had the denial thing with the stomach bug. I had one day, because it was frustrating me so much, that I had to slap my ratios down so quick and figure out a quick solution so I wouldn't keep having to slug juice boxes continuously. I went through this stage of anger and bitterness where it's like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'm sick and tired of it. Why do I have to deal with this? And why do millions of other people have to sit and deal with this? Worrying about that, the timing and stuff. If I don't time it right, I'm going to go low, and then I'm going to have to slug a bunch of food that I don't want to eat. And that, like, I shouldn't have to have this burden on me to sit and look at a plate of food, and the first thing I think of is carb counting and insulin dosing. That's the first thing I got to think of before I even say, oh, that looks delicious, or, oh, let's just sit down and eat. No, you got to sit and think. You got to maybe pre-bolus, most likely, and sit and wait around while everybody else can just sit and bow down and chow and enjoy their food, and they can go out and exercise and not go low after eating a big meal. Whereas, like, if I'm going to go out and exercise, I literally, and I think a lot of you do too, if you're doing like mowing grass or something, like I only have like one meal that whole day. Because I know if I put active bolus in my body and go out and exercise, I'm going to have a low blood sugar. Sit and plan around that and be an artificial pancreas is horrifying at times, and you're going to get angry and you're going to get bitter. The main thing though, like with that type of emotion, is I talked about this a little bit on Beyond Type 1 if you saw my post, is to snap yourself out of that, because the negativity, especially for me being as optimistic as I am, is not healthy. It's not a healthy train of thought, and it's not going to help you manage the condition any better, and it's not going to take away the fact that you have type 1 diabetes. So if you're going to go through an anger and bitter situation, go for it. It's only natural. But don't take your anger out on other people. Don't go slamming doors. Don't go breaking windows. Don't go murdering people, okay? After your anger or bitterness. Just kind of like deal with it in the healthy way possible. If you have to like take your mind off of it and have a burnout day. Now, I don't recommend going burnout full core, but there are going to be days where you're just going to want to say screw it and live your life, okay? There's going to be times where you're just going to be so difficult, but you need to just if you have to have one wind out day where you're just going to like, screw this, go ahead. But then snap out of it, okay? Snap out of it. Get yourself back into the managing techniques. Get yourself back into the carb counting, or however you manage your type 1 diabetes in your lifestyle, because it's only natural to feel emotions. It's what you do with those emotions is what makes it harmful to other people. Like, if you're just feeling angry and bitter, that's normal. Even Jesus got angry and bitter. If you are a religious and spiritual person, he did get angry. But he never went out and hurt anybody because of that anger. He never went out and took advantage of anybody, or beat up people or whatever. They never took that anger out on somebody else or something else. So it's natural to feel emotion, as long as you don't take that emotion and turn it into a negative action against somebody else. It's totally fine. Number 4 is frustration. And this goes along kind of with the anger and the bitterness, but to me, diabetes, and it's looking at it, I guess, more positively, but to me, I find diabetes on a daily basis more of a nuisance and a frustration and an annoyance than anything. It's the annoyance of analyzing and picking out different carbohydrate counts. It's the analysis and the annoyance of, should I do an extended bolus? It's the analysis and the annoyance of, you know what, this is going to digest slow. I need to do this. It's the analysis and the annoyance of, hey, I need to change my pump site. It's the analysis and the annoyance of your CGM beeping in the middle of the night because you're low, because you're high, because you're up and down. It's this feeling of frustration that it seems like sometimes no matter what you do, you're not going to be able to get it right. Or it's the frustration that for a lady, it's your time of the month and you've got to quick figure out and snap into a different plan so that you can deal with either like insulin resistance or insulin sensitivity or whatever. It's just frustration that you're trying to regulate blood chemistry. And it's a pretty daunting and challenging task because you're taking something that should biologically be happening and shouldn't have gotten destroyed in the first place, and you're trying to be its place. And, there's no perfect diabetic. I'm surely not the perfect diabetic. Nobody is. But you have to try to strive for perfection as much as possible. You're never going to actually reach perfection, but you can try and strive to be as close as you can. Number 5, you can break number 5 into 4 different words: overwhelmed, stressed, worried, anxiety. It's the anxiety that you're not going to wake up because your blood sugar went too low in the middle of the night, or it's the anxiety that your pump might fail on you in the middle of class. It's the anxiety that you didn't bring enough insulin or test strips for the day. It's the anxiety of, can I pay that doctor bill off in time, and can I pay it off in full? It's the overwhelming idea and the stress that, I'm doing everything I can to take care of myself, but am I still going to go blind when I'm 60? Am I going to lose a leg? Am I going to go numb? Are my kidneys going to fail on me? It's the idea of keeping your body healthy for as long as possible without a functioning part of your pancreas that secretes insulin. It's the worry that, did I take too much up front? It's the worry that, hey, did I not take enough and I'm going to end up in diabetic ketoacidosis? It's the worry that someone else is going to end up diagnosed with this disease too. It's the worry that your kids might have it. Now, that's one that, like I said, I'm not as concerned about, but I'm just labeling all these different worries and anxieties that y'all can relate to. It's the worry. One of my biggest fears right now is that I'm not going to find somebody that's going to want to date me because I have type 1 diabetes. I said it. I'm scared of that. I am death scared of it because it's almost like you've got this thing that is different from people, and if somebody's going to react badly to it, it's going to be a horrible thing. But at the same time, I'm also looking at it and thinking, if somebody can't accept this disease as part of my life, then I guess they can't accept me as a person. And they're not a person that I need to be in a relationship with, or a person that I should be friends with. Not a person I should be hanging out with. It's the idea that, if you run into people or your job or whatever gets you stressed and anxiety, that it raises your blood sugar, and then you end up having all these problems. And you're not going to feel good. It's the worry that, you're going to forget to do something, and you're going to forget to bolus, and you're going to go up to 300 and sit there. I could sit and name endless worries and anxieties that go through a type 1 diabetic's head, but I'm not going to do that anymore. But that's one of the feelings, and you're probably going to experience different levels of it and different types of thoughts about this as you go through. And you're probably going to be able to tell that, like, as I'm going through these emotions, we're going to get more positive, I promise you. But this is true stuff, guys. This is actually what goes through psychologically what goes through the head of a type 1 diabetic. Number 6 is being sad or mourning the loss of your old self. Now, this, the sadness can apply to anybody. But the idea of mourning your old self really only applies to people who've had a non-diabetic life before this, and I'm one of those people. For 19 years, I didn't have to worry. It's the freedom that you had before. Like, you don't have to sit and... Food is just not the same anymore. It's just like, sometimes just enjoying the simplest things, you gotta sit and plan ahead in order to get things appropriately done and keep normal blood sugars. Like, whatever, running into people that are going to sit and judge you. That's something else that you have to sit and think about, and you could be upset about or mourn about, and, wishing that you had the freedom that you had before you had diabetes, that you could just shovel as much food as you want and not worry. Your body would take care of it. To go to bed and not have to take insulin, or go to bed and not worry, is my blood sugar going to go low? Is it going to go high? To sit and have, just have your normal body back. Not the financial burden. I mean, it's another tack onto your life that you've got to pay for and deal with, and it's not your fault. To mourn over that's okay. And you're going to sit and wish that you could go back. And I wish I could, and it's been such a long time, I almost forgot what it's like to be a non-diabetic, but I would just, if I could be a non-diabetic for one freaking day, I would do it in a heartbeat. If you gave me a chance to be a millionaire and not worry anything about anything financially and be a non-diabetic for one day, I would take being a non-diabetic for one day and go back to being a diabetic the next. Because it would just be a relief off my shoulders. And you can tell I'm getting emotional about this because this is hard stuff to talk about, and I don't think a lot of people sit and talk about this. But this goes through my head a lot, but you got to keep your chin up and keep going, right? But it's only normal to want to mourn the loss of your old self if you've known a life before diabetes. Now, for those of you that were younger when you were diagnosed, or you don't remember a life before diabetes, I don't think you're probably not missing out on it as much because you don't know anything different. You don't remember anything different. You've always been used to getting shots, or used to getting your blood sugar checked, or going to doctors all the time, or just dealing with highs and lows as they come. But if you never got to experience life as a non-diabetic, I also kind of feel sorry for you that you didn't get to experience that freedom, that sense of relief, that sense of just being a person and not worrying about a bodily function. So it can go both ways, and maybe that's something I'll talk about in a future episode. What do I think is worse, being diagnosed later in your life or being diagnosed early? You could get thousands of different perspectives on it, but personally, I'm kind of thankful that I got to experience both, because in this life you can only experience so many different things, and to experience being a diabetic is one hell of a roller coaster, I'll tell you that right now, literally and emotionally. So number 7 is this neutral feeling. This is the best word I could put across it, and that's that I don't give a damn about nothing feeling. And you go through this a lot, and this neutral feeling can get turned into a diabetes burnout, where you're not taking care of yourself, or you're not taking your insulin, you're not checking your blood sugar, you're not going to your doctor's visits, you're not using your continuous glucose monitors, you're not wanting to maintain blood sugars that you think are appropriate for your health, you're not watching out for things, you're not carb counting, you're not whatever. But I would say a lot of us sit in a neutral state, where some days you get so accustomed to dealing with certain things, and some days you're just I don't give a damn, I don't give a shit, I'm done. But like I said, if you're going to have that one day of burnout, take a day, do it, and get yourself right back in that groove, because if you don't, you're going to be sitting for years and years, and it's going to come to the point where you're going to start feeling numb, or you're going to start losing vision, and then you're going to be wanting to turn back the clock and fix things. So that neutrality, it comes to the point where it becomes a routine as a diabetic, but at the same time, if you have highs and lows, you need to learn to fix them when they happen, so that you can have a better future and a better tomorrow. Number 8 is empowerment. We're going to get really positive now. It's this sense of empowerment once you figure out how to manage this condition for your lifestyle. You get this sense of relief and empowerment that, yes, I can do this. It's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be a challenge. Some days are going to suck. Some days are going to rock. And I'm just going to live my life and do the best I can. It's the sense that there's so many educational resources out there for you. There are doctors that are willing to help you. You got to find the right team, though. There are people out there that are researching different new technologies, to new drugs, to stem cell therapy, in hopes that someday we can prevent and cure this disease. And I know it probably won't be far down the road before we're going to have a really good, effective treatment that'll be just as close as a cure. And to me, that would be just as good, that we can wear a device or have some sort of weird implant or something, and it pretty much takes care of everything for you. There may be a few things we have to do, but it won't be as rigorous as even now wearing a CGM and a pump. Like, yes, it's fantastic. Don't get me wrong, diabetes management has come a long way, and we're living longer and happier, healthy lives because of the technology. But keep in mind, I'm still have to one that has to look at my monitor. I'm still has to be the one that can tells my pump, hey, this is what I need. Hey, I have to be the one to tell my pump, I want more insulin right now because my blood sugar's been high for a while, or I don't need as much insulin right now, so let's turn it down. It would take the strain and the mental spinning going around in your head up here out of it. It's a sense of empowerment that there's a huge community out there that understands what you're going through and that you can connect with them. Beyond Type 1's a great resource. There's Facebook groups, there's Instagram groups, there's all different groups online that would be willing to chat with you, help you. And the beauty of this disease is, like, you can be someone who's lived with it for years, you can be someone that's lived with it for a year like me, or you could be somebody watching my video right now that was diagnosed yesterday, and you've got something to offer, you've got something to share, because no two diabetics are going to have the same life, no two diabetics are going to have the same ratios, no two diabetics are going to lead the same diet changes or lifestyle, and one person's experience can help another, and another person's experience could help another. So feel that sense of empowerment and that sense of pride, I guess, knowing that makes you unique, knowing that this makes you stronger, knowing that this makes you a person of good character, especially once you've learned how to manage it and live your life with it, because it's possible. It's going to seem impossible at first, but it is possible to live with a life with type 1 diabetes and still do amazing things in your life. So feel that sense of empowerment. The 9th emotion I have on here is appreciation, and this is one I go through on a daily basis. It's like looking at like my family, and they can just sit, most of my family, I got 2 family members that are type 1 diabetics that have to probably, like me, think about food in a very similar analytical manner. But the rest of my family and friends, they can chow down a plate of food, and I sit and appreciate that, like, their pancreas works for them and that they don't have to sit and deal with this, and I'm thankful that they don't have to deal with it, and I'm thankful that some of my family members don't have it, because I feel like it would just be hard to watch them go through the same stuff that you went through. I'm appreciative that, that I can afford my supplies. It's difficult, but I can afford it, and I'm very, very lucky that I have parents that love me and care about me, and I am very lucky that I have friends that care about me. I'm very lucky that I live in America, except the high cost of insulin, that's a different story. But anyways, I'm very lucky to live in a country where, like, hey, I'm not going to get bombed if I go out my front door right now. I'm very appreciative of the fact that insulin is here, that I'm not on a starvation diet like they were 100 years ago, and I was expected to live with type 1 diabetes for a couple years. I'm thankful that there are, like I said, that there are people, there are bad people out there, you guys. But I'm thankful that there are a lot of good people in this world too, that honestly want to help you and honestly want to see you succeed, and that there's people out there that want a cure for people with diabetes because they have a connection to it, or they themselves have diabetes and they see the struggles and they deal with the struggles, and they want you to live a healthy, happy life. And they're going to fight as hard as they can to get a cure or to get really, really good treatments that would eliminate a lot of our stress and a lot of our anxieties. So have that appreciation. Have the appreciation that there's a lot of help out there, and technology has made things so much easier. And have the appreciation for the situation that you're in now, because I almost guarantee you there's somebody worse. Like, I sit and think about people that are on chemotherapy for cancer, and like, that could have been me too, like, dying of cancer and not knowing if I'm ever going to get off chemotherapy. I sit and think about people that have a physical disability that where they're never going to be able to, like me, I have a job where, like, I'm going to be working with my hands and stuff, and I sit and think about people that don't have hands or had them, cut off in a farming accident or something, like, it could be worse. And I also think about people that have mental disorders or mental disabilities or something where, like, all they'll ever do is do this or do that, and I sit and think about those people and how they struggle, and that my struggles don't seem as bad. I just appreciate that I can do what I need to do. I appreciate that I can go to college right now, and that I can cover it. I'm appreciative that I can drive. I'm appreciative that, that I understand things, and that the brain that God gave me is incredible, and I appreciate that I have talents that I can share with other people, and I appreciate that other people have shared their talents and their times with me. So you're gonna get this really deep sense of appreciation once you have diabetes, and it's a thing that no person without type 1 diabetes is ever going to experience. And I think I call myself blessed to be able to experience this extremely deep sense of appreciation because of living with a disease like this. Number 10, the final emotion, which ultimately, if you can adapt this pretty quickly on, like, you're going to go through rough times, don't get me wrong, but pretty much, like, right from the get-go, I had acceptance. I accepted this disease as part of my fate. I accepted this disease as part of my life path. I accepted that I have it for a reason. And I accept that I can deal with it. Having that acceptance is huge. Because once you accept type 1 diabetes as a part of your life, it only makes management easier because you've got that pretty much that optimistic outlook from the get-go. And like I said, I believe in optimism, and optimistic attitudes do lead to easier to control blood sugars, because you're going to look at it from a positive point, and you're going to see, like, yes, we can fix these problems. Yes, there's a solution for this. Yes, there's a solution for that. Yes, there's this that can help, and that can help. Accepting that this disease is a part of you, but it isn't the whole story. That's one thing you have to learn to accept too, is that don't let it control you. Just accept it as part of you, not the whole story. And that's the biggest thing I can tell people. It's part of me, but not the whole story. There's a heck of a lot more to me than just being a full-time pancreas, even though it does consume a lot of my time. And it's always on my head. Like, it's always in my head. And if you're a type 1 diabetic, you know what I'm saying. Like, if I'm in the grocery store and somebody asks, like, what's this insulin, what's your Omnipod, or what's this, I tell them, whether or not I specifically tell them all the details and stuff is fine, but, like, just know if you see a type 1 diabetic in the wild, if you're a non-diabetic, and you recognize that somebody in the wild, like, has a Dexcom on, like me, or a pump, like a tubed pump, or a Omnipod, like me, just know that even though we're doing other things, like, it's on our mind 24/7, that we have this disease. It's on our mind 24/7. We're always thinking about it. We're always thinking about our blood sugar, where it could be headed next. We're always thinking about our next move, our next meal, how we're going to bolus for our next meal, if we're going to go out and exercise. Is the heat impacting my blood sugar? Do I feel stressed? Do I have to make accommodations for my stress? Or do I have to remove myself from a situation so that I don't get blood sugars that go really, really high or really, really low? So keep that in mind. When you sit and think about diabetes, these 10 different emotions that I just went through, I hope this made sense for you guys, and I hope you enjoyed this more psychological analysis type video. I like talking about this kind of stuff, and I hope to be doing more videos in the future about mental health and type 1 diabetes, because it's a huge thing. To get your mind in the right mindset, and to look at things more from a brighter perspective, because if you can do that and you can accept type 1 diabetes as part of your life, but not the whole story, I think that's half the battle won. Because I remember when I was, like, in 10th grade, there was a poster on one of my English teacher's classrooms that, like, thinking positively is half the battle. And I definitely agree with that. It's the same thing, like, pursuing, like, my career. It's going to be hard, but I'm thinking positive that I can get through it. And I know I can get through it. I have the brains to do it. It's just investing the time and the effort. And I have time and effort to invest. It's the idea that looking at something positively gets you halfway through things. And looking at something positively is only going to make living your one earthly life that you get a lot easier, because we don't get second chances. We don't get to undo the life we have been given. This is our only chance to live in this physical body on this physical earth. So take the life you were given and lead it, because you're not going to get another chance. This is your one chance of life. You've got one body, and take care of it and deal with type 1 diabetes in the best way that you can. And I just want to say, I hope I help a lot of you guys. I definitely tell I've inspired a lot of people, and I've getting a lot of good feedback that I'm really an empowering person, and I'm glad for that. And who knows if that's the reason why I was given this disease, is to empower people that live with it. And I think that's a lot of the reasons why we're all given this disease. And I think we can all agree on the idea that we're given it maybe to show people that don't have a chronic condition that they just need to be more thankful for what they do have. Because honestly, I should just sit and do a whole video about this, but I see people that have the world by the rear end, and they're miserable because they're not happy, or they can't be satisfied for what they have, or they can't be grateful for their family or their friends or what they do have, or they're jealous. And that's something that I'm going to talk about. I think that's one of the worst things you can hold in your heart, is jealousy. Maybe I'll just do that for like a random non-diabetes video, is like, you know, just my outlook on the world and kind of how I see people for certain things. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Kind of a long one again, but I've been really enjoying just sitting down and chatting and sharing my real heart with you guys, because, you know, I hope I can shed some light on some things, or that I can maybe offer a perspective that the world hasn't seen yet, or that people also think about but they don't want to voice it. I'm at the point in my life where, like, you make me angry, or something insinuates, you know, you get in my face, I'm gonna get back in your face. You want my opinion, I'll give it to you, kind of person. I'm not scared to sit and voice this kind of stuff and stand up for different things, because it's the only way you're gonna get yourself going in life, is to work for things, stand up for what you believe in, and fight for others who are too scared to do so. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up. Feel free to hit the subscribe button down below. I post videos every single week about diabetes plus more. And until next time for another video, take care, God bless, be kind, spread positivity, and be thankful. And if you're a type 1 diabetic, know that you are a warrior, and that I get it. I've been through everything that you can think of in a year. And yeah, so see you next time. Bye, everyone.